RVA.
From D.C. to Richmond's Capitol Square, lawmakers know Rich Herrera is watching.
This is Richmond's Morning News with Rich Herrera on News Radio WRVA.
It's 8:35 this morning on Richmond's Morning News, News Radio WRVA. My name is Rich Herrera. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the program. On Thursdays, we have the privilege and the honor of being joined by the former governor of this great Commonwealth and a U.S. ambassador, Jim Gilmore. Takes time out of his busy schedule to sit down with us every Thursday, and we talk about things internationally with his international diplomacy background and things domestically here in the Commonwealth, being the former governor of this Commonwealth, and I'm always humbled to bring him on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Jim Gilmore joining us here on News Radio WRVA. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Glad to be back. I don't know how honorific it is for you, but I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Want to get your thoughts. We kind of laid out where we are right now with Iran and this ceasefire that doesn't really look like a ceasefire. Sir, I said just yesterday in the program that Donald Trump has kind of been painted into a corner by his own words and deeds and actions, and the left and the right. And now we're starting to see where he's been, where he's going. I wanted to get your thoughts on where we are today.
Well, I think that your listeners often might be focused on the dazzling tactical victories that are going on in the Middle East. I think the real big issue is what is everybody trying to achieve here. It's perfectly clear to me that the Iranians
I'm sorry,
trying.
Sir, can I interrupt you for a second? Can I get you
Sure,
to move Can I get you to move just a little bit so we can get a little clearer reception on your phone?
How about that?
That's
better?
Perfect. Yep, there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Look, I think that the Iranians are still have not surrendered. They are negotiating to achieve their goals, and their goals would be to keep their options on nuclear matters open, and also to make sure that they have some type of control over the Strait of Hormuz going forward. And I think that those are the goals that the Iranians are trying to do. The Americans, President Trump and the Americans and so on, are trying to get the Strait of Hormuz, they say, open, which means moving ships with freedom back and forth. And the ships are getting out under careful and U.S. Navy scrutiny, but it's cumbersome. And the additional thing is don't lose sight of the insurance issues. These ships don't sail unless they're insured, and if they're insured, that's because the insurer believes there's little risk of those ships being injured. But the Iranians have announced that they will be under certain conditions. So. I think that since last week, the whole thing is pretty much static and the same, to tell you the truth. The president has said that he's going to bomb his way to victory here. And I have military friends in the Washington area who I've talked to who assert that in fact is possible, that the president can in fact bomb them to submission. I'm not sure that's true. I've just said on this radio show before that has not worked in the past. In Vietnam or in Afghanistan or in Iraq, and I'm not sure it'll work here. But at the end of the day, it may be that the pounding is so bad that the Iranians will be forced to surrender at the negotiating table. My last word is don't be fooled by, let's get people to the negotiating table. The key is not getting people to the negotiating table. The key is to win the negotiation. And we don't know yet whether the environment is such that that's going to happen. In short, I think that it's still underway. I don't think there's a real ceasefire underway right now, but it's a good enough one to be able to say there is, so that you can negotiate. So that's kind of my statement to your listeners is not a lot has changed since last week.
Let's use the term ceasefire, because the United States and Iran, they're trading missiles back and forth and shots back and forth. But I noticed that we're playing a little bit of semantics. We're calling these are defensive attacks that we're doing, not we're offensively going back after them to try to have this facade of a ceasefire, even though in a ceasefire, you're not supposed to shoot at each other, sir.
Well, the whole goal of the ceasefire was to create the environment for people to sit down and try to work things out at the negotiating table. That is not happening yet. And, as the goal here of any type of military activity, remember, is not just to win the tactics, to shoot down the plane or so on like that. It is to achieve the ultimate strategic goals. And the Iranians' ultimate strategic goals are the nuclear program, which so far there's been no agreement on that, and the Strait of Hormuz, which I think is going to be very difficult to resolve. But the U.S., I think, may be down to very few options, and the only option they've really got right now is to bomb and see if that works.
I'm going to layer something else in. Trey Yanks just posted this because, again, Donald Trump, not a conventional president, not a conventional politician, certainly not a conventional diplomat. It's interesting. He's been letting out dribs and drabs and giving exclusives to Trey Yanks because I think everybody knows he does sit and watch a lot of television. He'll watch the Fox News channel and Newsmax and the rest, and he'll actually call the reporters and give them things while they're on the air. It's kind of wild that way. But two things I think that are very, very interesting. Number one is this just came out moments ago that the president has admitted to Trey Yanks to Fox News that they're having two different sets of conversations, one with the politicians, one with the IRGC, and they have to have separate negotiations, and they seem to get somewhere with the politicians, but then they have these conversations with the IRGC that go nowhere, or they're actually counterintuitive to what the politicians are saying. So I'm not sure the U.S. really has one strong man to have a conversation with, because it seems like both of those have their own agenda and neither are speaking with one voice.
Look, I think that we're in this thing because President Netanyahu persuaded President Trump to get into this thing. The Israelis now are also trying to secure their northern border by doing military operations in Lebanon, which may or may not be paused at any particular hour. But I think the president insisted that Netanyahu not engage in military activities in order to not screw up any potential negotiations that are going on. But at the same time, when the Iranians downed one of the Americans' helicopters a couple of days ago, the U.S. is responding, I think. So there's a lot of back and forth on this. Another third item that the Iranians are fighting for is to maintain the existence of Hezbollah in Lebanon, which for the Israelis is a no-go. Their reason for engaging in all this is to eliminate Hezbollah. So far, none of these objectives have worked out. But, it's going to continue on, Rich, and we're going to be talking about this for quite some time, I think. Let me pause and say that I ask your listeners to not lose sight of the big picture, which is the global conflict that we are in. And that, in my view, the central place in this conflict remains Europe. And I'm a little concerned about the European war. It appears actually that the Ukrainians are winning day by day because of their assaults on the Russian homeland, because of their assaults on Russia's energy and refineries and oil capacity. And they're not, the Russians are not winning in terms of their strategic goals, which is to eliminate Ukraine. So far, the Pacific is quiet. There are reasons for that, I think, and primarily because I think the Chinese have their own issues, and they're watching and waiting to see whether the entire international situation will collapse and they can go into Taiwan without risking very much. But right now, things are very high risk for the Chinese if they're going to try to take Taiwan. But again, look at the big picture. Right. I promise you that it's all interconnected.
Oh, 100%. And by the way, it's almost like I have a crystal ball, sir. I was just talking about, Donald Trump being very unconventional, calling Trey Yanks from the Situation Room and relaying information in real time to him. As I said that, Donald Trump just called into Brian Kilmeade on Fox News Channel to say U.S. will be hitting Iran very hard tonight. So he's telegraphing, listen, you better get to the table right now. Otherwise, we are going to bomb you. And he used some choice words. And this is live right now, talking to Brian Kilmeade and Fox and Friends. So he's letting them know this is your last chance. Either you stop right now or else. Sir, I've got a bunch that we need to get to, and I do want to bring up the Ukraine situation. So normally in the second half of our conversation, we talk about domestic policies and things in the Commonwealth, but I think we need to make sure that we save some time for Ukraine and some other things that we need to talk about internationally, if you don't mind.
I'm right here.
Okay.
We'll be with you after right at 9 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. Because I do want to bring up, folks, that this was remarkable, that Zelensky asked for a conversation with Putin, and Putin rebuffed him. And I need to find out from Ambassador Gilmore exactly what that means. So we're going to do that coming up at 9 o'clock. Again, the fact that we get to talk to a former governor and an ambassador every week here on News Radio WRVA, I don't know a lot of talk shows that have that. So I'm always grateful for the time that we get to spend with Governor Gilmore. Okay, let me remind everybody, program today is brought to you by GreerFinancialGroup.com. So what happens when there's real-world action that just changes everything, your plans? The supply chains break down, oil shoots up, oil drops. There's so many things that go into your financial planning. How do you stay on top of that? Well, you can't be expected to. You've got your life to live. You've got your family to raise. You need a partner that you can work with. That's where Michael Greer comes in. He stays on top of all of those things. Why? His job is to protect and grow your money. That's what fiduciaries do. So he works every day, and he